pitch and package your TV series ideas. It's a quite long title, but with very solid background that we're going to analyze today. I would like to welcome you on behalf, first of all, two offices, Media Desk Serbia and Media Desk Croatia. So we are collaborating for the second time at Zagreb Film Festival. Nevena Negojević, my dear colleague and friend, and myself, Martina Petrović, head of Media Desk Croatia. And we realized that TV series, it's something that is trendy, that there is a hype about it, and that we would like to introduce for our professionals workshops that could, from which they could really benefit and to be competent in terms of the different pitchings and workshops at the European level. Before I introduce two wonderful ladies, our today's experts, I would like to say a big thank you to Zagreb Film Festival for helping us to make this masterclass and our collaboration happen during these challenging and really difficult times. And I would like to start with Inja, Luka and her team, but also Lana, Boris, Casey, Selma, Hrvoje, and Mia for backing us up. So I come to two wonderful ladies. I'm happy to introduce experienced experts, Valeria Richter, scriptwriter and producer, and Helene Granqvist, a producer. They have been collaborating for quite some time already, but it is the first time that they're here with us virtually in Zagreb and in Belgrade and in Stockholm and in Copenhagen. And I must say they're having at the same time lots of different hats and roles. And besides being already known in terms of their professional work, but they're also known as really terrific and wonderful educators, and those who are introducing change when it comes to putting different projects, people, and networking together. So they are quite famous when it comes to the workshops from Torino Film Lab, Black Nights in Talent, but also I would like to highlight the recent one, Carla 2020. The masterclass is envisaged also to offer individual consultations, and I hope that our dear applicants and our dear participants of the individual consultations are here with us today, but I would also like to highlight them. So there are four of them, and they're going to work individually with our experts, Noah Maričak, the Yes Group, Dorotea Vucic with Project Hadi, Ivana Karačoni-Rupčić with the Project Guild from Croatia, and from Serbia, Nadia Lapčević, A Pound of Flesh. And before we give the floor to the experts, I would like to share a wonderful quote by Rebecca Solnit about the storytelling, because we are here to encourage also stories coming from small, low visual capacity countries to be present at the European level. And as she says, we think we tell stories, but stories often tell us. So the task of learning to be free requires learning to hear them, to question them, to pause and hear silence, and to name them and then become a storyteller. So, dear ladies, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Just a second. I forgot to mention the questions. Dear audience, you can post on the Facebook pages I mentioned, and we're gonna communicate them during or after our conversation with the experts. Thank you.
So thanks very much for having us, Zagreb Film Festival and Creative Desk in Bosnia and Creative in Serbia. Yeah. Balkan, sorry for confusing. So, it's, as you say, a complex subject, identifying core and concept in order to pitch and package. And today we will talk a bit in general because we work as coaches and with education. So we will talk a bit in general, but we will also have a case study with Valeria's project Next of Kin. That is right now, it's a TV series that right now is in production in Finland. So we will use that as a case study. But I would like to start to share part of and I think our idea of the relation between the artistic process and pitching and presenting your project, because there is a contradiction, definitely. And I was started to describe my view of the artistic process. What is that? And the artistic process is, so to say, it's the ground material of our whole industry. It's what it's always based on. And then we have a lot of layers and an ecosystem where it should fit in. But this ground material, how does that start? And this is my picture of it. It starts here somewhere. You get an impulse. You need to express something. You have something you want to share and tell. And it's something you see that no one else sees from the beginning. It's invisible, but it's also very clear. It's a mix, because you have this strong urge to express it. And maybe you have some thoughts. Maybe it's very confusing when you start to talk about it to other people. Maybe they don't understand. And I think that's right. That's how it should be, because the artistic process is based on creating something that not really exists yet. It's based on asking a lot of questions, and it's based on getting into the dark and try to find something and then try to make it clear for an audience. That's somehow a description. And hopefully you manage to engage other people to go this road that doesn't exist yet and create it while walking it together with you, and you will get obsessed. And sometimes people question, why are people in this industry? Because it's so hard and it's not so good paid and you really have to struggle. Yeah, I don't know, because we are in this tribe of filmmakers and TV makers in the world. There is, when you once have tried it, you always want to do it. So this is somehow, so the process is based on question. It's quite chaotic. At the same time, you need to be very clear if you want some funding for this process. And there is a contradiction, because to convince someone that you should get funding for something that is built on question can be very tricky. So the suggestion we usually gives when we start our coaching sessions for pitching is take your artistic process, put it to the side, because it's useless when it comes to pitching, and then start to think, what do these people need who are going to support my project? What make them feel clever, seen, loved, all those things we all want to have? What make them feel clever? Then you have to pick things from your artistic process and feed them. Nom, 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 and make them feel comfortable. And this contradiction is some of, so to say, the art of pitching, I think. So with this little start, I'm happy to welcome my dear colleague, Valeria. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Very happy to be here. So thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, and something we also have it in the title of this lecture, core. We talk a lot about core when we do our coaching session. If you should describe the core of a project, how would you describe that?
Well, when you were just talking now, I think I was thinking about the process I've just gone through with the TV series.
Yeah.
And it feels, in a way, I must also say it's the first time I'm the head writer. It's the first time I'm writing actually scripts to be produced, and the same for my co-writer. She's written scripts before, but it's the first time she has something produced. So it's been like we're debutantes in that way. And it felt like you have this idea, and it can be hard sometimes to find out what is the core of it, because sometimes you need to go around and you have all these different, you have the character, you have the theme of the world, or you have different aspects that you want to explore, but what is actually at the core? And then if you have a feeling in your body almost of what the core might be, or you have a confused or not so clear sense, you can say it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, but what is it? Yeah. And then when you have to start pitching it to others, yeah, so that they can become interested in developing the project with you, you try out different things, and maybe sometimes in that dialogue you get to the core. And then I think the process from then, let's say you find out more and more what it is, and then it starts changing, and then there are demands from the reality and from the people who are paying the bills. And so for me, the writing became, and also the constant checking in with the core, like a reverse archaeological process. Mm-hmm. So it's like
but I'm thinking
what the archaeology is, because it feeds a little bit, I think, into what you said. It's like that you write something and then you can pitch it at this stage, and then you continue the writing, and it keeps being pushed down. So you have all these layers that you keep writing on top. And sometimes you couldn't reach here without maybe have gone through the layers, even if, you know.
No, but isn't it, I'm thinking of, because I know we coach a lot together, so I think this is a truth for both you and me. A lot of projects we meet in our coaching processes haven't really found or defined the core, and I think sometimes I feel that we are more or less midwives that helps to give birth and to formulate the core. Isn't it that it's easier to see the core in someone else's project than in your own?
Yes, I think it's more challenging to see it in your own, and that's why like I said, the dialogue helps you sharpen. So when you're forced to, you always think that, oh, I can pitch it perfectly now, but then it keeps changing, and then the situation you're in, that you're having a drink with someone and you have to pitch it, or you have a 5-minute meeting only and you have to try and pitch the idea, and immediately, subconsciously, you react to how their face is, or do they look bored? Do they look like they're not listening to you? Or do you see that they catch something? And then you can see, what are they catching? And is that maybe the core, or did I not really get that across? And so, as you said,
may I try a thought on you? Because that's that the core, it's not that there is a code how to find the core, but if you find the core, when you find the core, you get people's attention. And may I try a thought on you? I think it has to do something that it's been genuine, that it's something that you truly mean, or that you truly are behind. Do you think that's it?
Yes, but I also think it's there can be different cores in a way, because if you have a TV series, you often have different storylines and different themes attached to different characters. And so, like for the Next of Kin, you can say that the core of the show is a family drama set in the near future, and it's asks the bigger question of, why do we have children, and if we have children, how is science helping with that, and what is the consequence for those children? But emotionally, that's not a very attractive core. Like, so what is the emotional core? And when we had our initial conversations for this conversation, you also said like that it's a person, like the main character becomes the target of an investigation, and she's being hunted down. Like, she's perceived, she feels there's a threat around me. I have to find out, what is this threat? What do they want from me? Why are they chasing me? And then she realizes that she is the biggest threat, who she is. So I think if we can formulate something around that, that's a bit more emotional core. So I also think there's like the pitch core, but also the core that when you're sat down writing the script, what core do you have to keep in the head of in the back of your head, and sometimes they can be a bit different in my experience.
Yeah, so maybe if I should try put my pitch coach hat on, so the core, and we will definitely tell you audience more about next of kin, so you understand. But what Valeria said now, if I should say this the easy way, it could be said: when you think that all your problems is around you in the world, you will finally realize that the biggest problem and also the biggest solutions is inside yourself. That could be the short pitch, but that took months to get to that core. But if we start, and I will start to share my screen, I think, so you will not see me for a while. I hope you will see, or maybe you will see both of us. We'll see. See if I can manage to do this. I'm not the smartest knife in the box. So let's see how we do it. No, but I would like to, while tricking with these techniques, Valeria, could you share what was the two first ideas you have when you started this process, and when did you start the process? How long time?
Well, in 2015, it was kind of where I decided that I wanted to write myself. I had been coaching so much and doing so many workshops, and eventually I just felt like I needed to express something myself. Yeah. And so that was in 2015, and then in 2016 I had talked to some producers.
I'll stop you there because I'm really interested in, and I think it was interesting that I got this picture of the egg. Yeah. What absolute because you had this idea that you wanted to do something yourself. But
okay, it's okay. Yes. Okay, so I don't have children myself. I tried to get pregnant. I've been through what's called in vitro fertilization process, and it did not succeed. So I've been in what is called the fertility industry, and I had some very personal experiences from that. And because I've always loved science fiction, I love science. I started to research the fertility industry. So that's the egg. That's where it started. And then something started to happen in 2012. Genetic editing, this science that they just won the Nobel Prize this year, the two women who worked on identifying and discovering it, called CRISPR-Cas9, which is this being able to cut the human DNA. And so immediately I could see how the fertility industry was booming in the Nordics and worldwide, and women travel all over the world to have eggs implanted and trying to have children. And I started to ask myself, should we have children at any cost? If we have this new genetic editing, for sure it will be made available for people with money and means within this industry. Because
so now I'm interrupting you. So
what were the two that I brought together?
Yeah, you will continue soon. But so what we're talking about now could be the first core of your story, very intellectual core, but also based on your own emotion. But that was the first core you're describing now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you do?
Well, I did a lot of research. So for this project, first me and then my co-writer and I, we've done loads of research and reading a lot of articles, watching documentaries, and speaking to a couple of scientists. Not enough scientists for my taste, but we have talked to some key geneticists and other scientists, stem cell researchers and others. So there was the research, and then there were also, like, I've always been a big fan of the X-Files, and I wanted to have a man and a woman at the center as the main characters. And I wanted to put this man and a woman on a journey together. So that's where it started. And so my pitch was very much to the production company, because that's the first step. If as a writer, you don't have already a strong collaboration with a producer, that's the first step to try and find someone who wants to engage with you.
Yeah. So how much material did you have when you first?
I had created, and that is a very secret document. I had created a PowerPoint with text and images. I had tried to make a short log line, a short synopsis to introduce the characters, and just put in, like, the image you're seeing now on the screen. I found images that for me captured a mood and a feeling that I wanted to put into the show.
So what I hear, and I interrupt, so what I hear that you actually started to package.
Yeah.
You had your core, because we're talking about pitch and packaging. So already when you only had this first core, before you had any script or anything, you did this package. So
Yeah.
how did you know what kind of picture to use? Was it a feeling or a thought, or how did you work?
It was a feeling. It was like at that point, I was a little bit saturated with the Nordic noir. And I have worked so much in Europe and around the Nordics, and I just wanted more warmth. I wanted more color. I wanted a bit more, a different type of dynamic. So I tried to find images that would capture that mood, kind of.
Yeah. So, and then I don't know. I would like to say to our audience here that we are very happy to be interrupted with questions. We will have Q&A afterwards, but if you have questions already now, you can write them on the Facebook page or where the streams are. If it's YouTube, I think it is, then you can write your questions, and Martina will make sure we get them. And we are happy to be interrupted. Inspired, we will call it. So please ask questions. But I would like to ask you the question, because you are Danish, but you decided to approach a Finnish production company. So what was your reason, or was that the first production company you approached? And how did you think when you approached this? If we have screenwriters in the audience, it could be interesting to hear how you did it.
Yes, because of the coaching and the workshops that I've been doing, I have had a lot of Finnish participants, and I've been a lot of times in Helsinki. So I had some contacts there, and just my immediate thought was that because even if the show has the kind of qualities that, for example, our national broadcaster are looking for, like it's an interesting world, you can put a lot of conflicts and dilemmas in there in the world that I was looking to work within in the story. Because I wanted it to be in the near future, we don't have a lot of track record in Denmark for that. And we only have very few broadcasters to go to. And when I looked at the things that they were producing, I was not very hopeful that a show like this would find any.
So I tried to translate. So what you actually did, you scanned the market. So that's something we encourage people to do when you have a project. Scan the market, look what has been done before, to read the ecosystem. And of course, we have a quite good overview because we meet a lot of projects. So you use that skill to decide to go to this specific company in Finland. And what did they say when you approached them?
They thought it sounded interesting. Like that they were. It's like you have when you start talking about it, they pick up on something like a little hook or another hook, and you get a sense of, oh, that's interesting. This is what turns them on. This is where they can see a potential.
So do you remember in this specific project what was the hooks they recognized?
Well, it was the fact of making the near future of the, to create this journey with the two characters within this world of genetic science, and to throw people into these. So the theme was, they also liked the science theme in that sense.
Okay, so to say that what you pitched a theme. So the theme was this ugly word, but we have to use it, unique selling points. Because
and the fact that there was going to be this woman at the center who will find out that she's the first genetically edited person in the world, and she doesn't know that, and so she will find out that her parents are not her parents. And I don't know how early, because once you're this far into the process, you start forgetting a little bit the very early stages of, when did we get that idea? Was that there from the beginning, or did that come later? But we started pretty early, at least, to pitch the opening of the first episode, which is a young woman putting down a baby on a beach and then walking away from it. So, and this baby would then be the main character. So we sort of tried to put some images in there as well, because like when you coach for pitching, it's also sometimes to try and create images in the people who are listening to you.
Yeah, but that's what I'm going to say. As the pitch coaching hat, that to start a pitch with that, as you say, because it's so much feeling and it creates a lot of pictures. So what we actually say here in your pitches, find something to say that create visuals inside the head of those who's listening. That's a feed them with something that
I just have to open my door. I'm really sorry. Yeah. Maybe Martina can dig out a question.
I can continue to share some ideas around. Valeria had a DHL, so we knew that this is going to happen. I'm sorry for that, but I think we can. So I would like to share. This is a concept that describes this series that right now is in production in Finland, and it's actually called Next of Kin, the Unborn. So, and it's the story about Liv, who is a person who have chronic pain, and that pain also has a relation to the fact that she is the result of a laboratory, and that's somehow and I should not spoil the whole plot, maybe, but if it has to be done, it has to be done with Valeria. It's 8 episodes, 52 minutes, and the co-writer with Valeria is a Finnish writer, is called Minna Panjanen, and they were brought together by Bufo in Finland, who is the production company, and this is also the production company that produces Aki Kaurismäki's last movie, and they're also specialized on genre film. They have a film called Memory of Water that is in production right now. I think it's post-production. I think they managed to finish the shooting right before COVID. And they were also part of a program that was called Nordic Genre Boost, where Valeria was the project leader, and I was also engaged as the pitch coach. So I now decided to show this concept that you create. And because now we jump in time, this concept we're looking at, from when is that? Where in the process? How much did you have because this is what you use to approach the broadcasters, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So would you like to share that process? Because you started as a writer, you have start with this idea, I want to do this. You create a concept, you package it, you approach the production company, they think this sounds interesting, they love the theme, you start to develop together. I also told when you were away that you were brought together with Minna Panjanen, who is a scriptwriter. So you have been co-writing since then. But then when you approach or another question, how many broadcasters or platforms did you pitch to?
Well, we applied. Yeah, I mean, we applied for a TV series development lab, but were not selected. And then we also applied for 2 pitch events, and were not selected.
So I interrupt all the time. Sorry about that, but those denial, were they useful or was it just painful?
It was just a waste of time.
It was a waste of time. Okay.
I don't know. They were not really useful. They were not really useful. But I think there are. I know because I've been doing selection in other contexts. So I know that a lot of the time the debates around selection is, but we need at least 2 French projects, and then we need, we can maybe take 2 from the Nordics, and then we need some from, So there are many things. It's not necessarily that the project is not good.
No, that's very good.
Yeah.
Before we continue, that you ask the questions, and then I will put in something else, because when we do our pitch coaching, we usually talk about some dimensions that a pitch should include. And of course, the core and the product that we have been talking about. But one thing that is really important is also the position. And with the position can mean a lot of things. It can mean what Valeria just said. It can mean that we know that, for example, the Swedish Film Institute, where I'm from, I know that they have of 100% of applications, they have to say no to 96. that doesn't mean that my product is shitty if they don't pick it. It means that they only pick 4%. So we have to have in mind, talking about position, that is also to know your market. And to know your market is also to know the limitations. That's one dimension. But another dimension is, in Valeria's case, if I can use you as my little guinea pig, in Valeria's case, being very experienced, well known in the industry, but not in the role as a scriptwriter. This is the first time. It's very clever to approach a production company that have a track record, because another truth about the industry is it matters what position you have when you go for application or when you go for distributor or broadcaster. And this is mean of me to say, but a lot of established persons having shitty projects manage to get funding, but I also have seen unestablished people with great project being denied. So there is a balance, and we might not like it, but this is the truth. This is how it is, and it's good to see it. So the balance between who are you and what is your project, to find that. And it's if you are non-established, it's good to team up with someone that is established. So that's the picture. So position. The third thing is direction, and we will talk more about that later on. But so sorry, Valeria, for interrupting. But if we go back to your pitching, it was didn't give you anything with these pitches where you were denied. You told me yesterday that someone wanted a project, but you decided to say no. Could you share that?
Yeah, no, it wasn't very concrete. There was no funding on the table, but it's a difficult navigation of how to find out if these are the people that want to take the project in the same direction as you, and if they want to push it in a completely different direction. When do you say no? And I think it is a difficult navigation. When, just as you said, in regard as being a scriptwriter, a creator, I did not have a position. I still don't feel like I have a position, but I got this made now. So I have a different position when this comes out, whether it becomes good or bad, whatever people react to it, you still got something done. So for the next project, you have a different position. But I think in the process of being in your first project, it's really delicate to navigate when to compromise, when to say no, and also there are things which at some point you do put the fact that you want it to get made above, maybe that. Like for our show, it changed a little bit the way, let's say that the tone and the style changed when the broadcaster came on board. I think it's made it better. So, and we've had a very close dialogue with the broadcaster, which has been very interesting.
And who was the broadcaster you decided to go with? Could you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, they're based in Finland and Estonia. They're called Elisa Vida, and they are like an SVOD, so a streamer, and they have been super. Like they're producing so many different shows. So that's also why they took a chance with us, because like I said, Minna and I are both debutantes, but that was never a question, which I was very pleasantly surprised that we were not challenged on that, because they could see the idea and they trusted that we could eventually write it. But of course, it's a hard birth, and it's a lot of writing and a lot of hard work. And in the beginning, you have to swallow some things, like, okay, so it's not going to be this, it's going to be that. Oh, but there's actually some really good and interesting stuff. It can actually get better. So it's a constant negotiation as well.
So now maybe I will go back a little bit, but we will come back to this the artist process again, because that's what you described. But you said something. You don't feel that you have a position yet, and that is something I meet a lot when I do coaching. And I have a very strong memory. It was a young woman. She said, I want to be a scriptwriter. And I had this, it was so obvious for me that that is not enough in our industry. You are the one who have to decide which position you want to have, and you have to give that to yourself. And I think I have met very, very established people from the industry that still have this feeling, and I think that's part of being an artist, because that, in the artistic process, it doesn't really matter. This position pitch shit, that is something we have to deal with. Has nothing. So I want to go back to this room of the creation, because if you feel that you know things when you are in the artistic process, it's not useful at all, because what's useful is to accept that you want to investigate things. I think we can be fooled by our feelings, and there we have to use our brains. So I usually encourage people that you decide who you want to be. You have to find your confidence. I am a scriptwriter, like it or not, world, because I have made my decision. Then it's up to the world to follow. But I really would like to encourage all of you who are listening, if you want to be something, decide that you are that, because it makes a difference when you should convince people that I am the person you should invest your money in. So that is also this confidence. So I just wanted to share that. But I want to come back to the moment.
Just add something before you ask. And also, I think maybe that either we now just talk a little bit more about the Bible, so people, I don't know what people are seeing out there.
Yeah.
They're seeing our faces or not, because it's boring to look at the Bible.
So let's go through the Bibles. I click and you tell us what we see.
Well, so just go to the. I mean, let's go that. Stay on this page, because I think again, it's actually a secret document, and I hope nobody will get angry at me for sharing it. So I don't want to linger on the texts, because things have changed a lot since we did this. Yeah. But this has been, and we've adapted it a couple of times, like making changes. But it's like a 32-page PDF that. And
when it was created to approach. It
was created in the beginning of 2018 or end of 2017, as a way to share with funders and use in applications, pitch to broadcasters, to just give them. We called it our sales Bible. So the hardest part of doing this document was trying. We spent 1 week together. We got a grant to stay at the Baltic Writers Forum in Gotland, me and Minna together. And so we were like puking out basically treatment text there. And we had to write, because a lot of applications asked for this. So you have 8 episodes of 45, 50 minutes, and you have to write a 3-page synopsis for these 4 feature films, which is basically what it is. And it's so hard to write that synopsis. It makes you want to throw up. But that's what we were doing there face to face as well. And we needed it for this thing. So the rest was easier.
So we have a look at the structure, because here is the structure, what this
so what we did was that we had created other PowerPoint documents ourselves first. Like there was my first one, then Minna and I did a couple together. And then we started writing on the treatments, and then we started making applications, and then we made this.
Could you tell us a bit how you decided to structure it like this? Is this the necessary things to have in a package, do you think?
I think just like for a pitch, just like for a script, also for this, you need to look at the inside of your project. So what's the core? It's actually, again, you go back to the core. You have to look, what is the right way of communicating my project in image and writing? So you can say the basic structure of this story Bible was based on me, again, at markets, Berlinale and other markets. I've been seeing a lot of them from sales agents, from producers. I was looking at other industries and looking how they were presenting projects, and then just your own gut feeling of what you like and what you feel communicates it. So we got a professional graphic designer to do this one and had a dialogue around it. So yes, I think you need a log line, like that short 1-2 sentences that somehow really present your project. You need a short synopsis, and then as the writer, the creator, you need to say what is your motivation. we didn't have a director on board at this point. Otherwise, there would have been a director's motivation, but we didn't have one at this point. Then the main character profiles and an overview of the characters. And then we had the season 1 synopsis, which was this horrible thing to write. And then most broadcasters like to see that you have an idea for a second or a third season. Depending, again, are you writing a miniseries of 6 episodes and it's a closed project? Then maybe they don't ask you for that. But for our type of show, which was an original show and so on, we were just told when we had meetings at events that people want to know that you can maybe have a second or third season. So we put in a concept for that. And then we made a lot of effort to sort of try and, like, we called it Nordic neophy. And we tried to put in the tone and the style, like, and because the different, Martina is waving, but we just to round it off, we have different languages. So we needed to put the language in there as well, because everybody we met, all the broadcasters and other people, they asked us which language. And at the point when we started, it has changed now. It changes so quickly in the industry. But at the beginning, people were like, oh, but people don't like shows with too many languages. And we had like Danish, Finnish, English. But then actually it started to change the feeling in the industry and the trends, and more shows came out with more languages. So suddenly it was not an issue. So
shall we see what Martina, do we have a question for us?
Yes. It's maybe easier that I read it. Hello. While pitching the concept of the show, is it smart to use comparisons with similar shows? For example, the tagline of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is It's Seinfeld on crack.
I would say sometimes. My answer of all questions regarding pitching, there are no smartest. There are some structural things that usually works well, but I would say 50% of the product I coach, I recommend people not to do it, and maybe 50% I recommend them to do it. I don't know what you say, Valeria.
No, it has to be in a context, because if I hate Seinfeld and I sit on the money, I'm an international, Sky, decision maker or someone, and then I actually hate Seinfeld, and you say it's Seinfeld on crack, I'm just thinking, oh my God, it's not me. But really, if you had described it in another way, I might have thought, that's really interesting, and I would never have thought of Seinfeld. So for me, I think you need to contextualize the way you use references, like which part of Seinfeld or which part of Jaws meets this, or so. I think it can sound smart, but often you're not sure. It can be hit and miss. You can be lucky it's someone who loves it and gets you, or it can be you can miss an opportunity. So
and I think I'm very often asked of what's the art of pitching, and I would say, I say it has nothing to do with the artistic process, but it is an art. So, and that means there are no easy way to do it. It is you can find I think a lot of people who we meet in our classes, they get the idea how to think. That's one thing. You can catch the idea, how should I think when I think of pitch? But there are no quick fixes. Do you agree with me, Valeria?
Yeah,
it's very organic, because it's also, there's a lot of people say, I can't pitch. I would say everyone can pitch. You just have to find your confidence and your tune to do it. And that is really, there is a moment when we coach people to find the structure in the text. That's where it begins. And then we work with the body. But then when you start to find your body and find your text, then you can have some help of your body. Then you get the impulses like an actor, like you get into Stanislavski or whatever. Your body starts to help you to get out with your message. And I think that is something that I think is totally sexy to see every time, that people really find it inside their bodies. So if Seinfeld on crack is the right thing, I would know if we have been working with you. I would say maybe that was the perfect thing to say. It was a very long answer on a short question. Do we have more questions?
Yes. So can you give more examples of genre as used here? So not like drama, comedy and similar, but specifically like this Nordic noir. Some numbers I can't read next to it.
What do you mean with the numbers?
Yeah.
Maybe it was on your first page of the
Okay, but
Bible.
that's not relevant. That was just like, I think we had 8 times 50 minutes in the beginning, and then it became
52. Yeah.
8 times 45 minutes. It's
So-
just those kind of numbers. Genre. I mean, in the Nordics, we've had, especially Norway and Sweden. Like, I think Sweden was one of the first where I noticed, which was Real Humans, which was remade in the UK with these robots that look like humans. That was genre for me, one of the first. And then Norway did Occupied, which is a near future as well, where Russia occupies Norway. And they had the Valkyria, which is also sort of a little fantastic. And then they had, they had another one in Norway as well. And then Finland, maybe it's more on the future
question. Was this the question? I'm sorry for interrupting, but didn't you ask if there are other genres than comedy, drama? Yeah, I think the question was, you say near-fi. Are there other definitions like that? I think that was the question.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like Nordic noir. I mean,
yeah.
Well, we just call it near-fi because it's the near future, and it's not like real science fiction. Like, there are no flying cars, or we're not, and there's no budget. We are a total low budget project, so near-fi is also more like realistic to make, like within the next 10 years, say. That's near-fi.
So the truth is that we don't give you an answer here, but I get an idea. I did pitch training at the Balkan Film Market at the first year. I met 16 projects from the Balkan, and I must say it was a fantastic experience. And I got, of course, a tiny knowledge about your part of the world, but I got so damn inspired. So if there are no like Nordic noir on the Balkan, I think you should definitely creates a local genre. I think that is something you can also start to pretend something, and if you do it in a group enough times, it will exist. So I think that is something I should encourage you to. If Seinfeld on crack could be translated to
genre.
Yeah, some kind of Balkan genre. I don't know. That's just what comes to
absolutely.
mind.
It's all a game of marketing. I mean, there's a game of development, which is the tone, the style, the format of each episode. Like, how is it dramaturgically? Do you have like you need to go in on a high and out on a cliffhanger? That's a particular style. Or is it more of an inner drama? Or, there are so many shows out there now. And I think one of the advantages as a writer and creator and producer is that we have so many examples of so many different types of shows now that have been made, that the limit is only what we put on ourselves, or then it's the dialogue where we see, okay, we can get it made if we take it more in this direction. Are we okay with that? Or are we compromising something that will make it not our project anymore? So to ask these questions as we move along, like there is an American show which is super popular, called Yellowstone, and it's sort of like a soap opera, but it's also a Western. So it's put this sort of family drama, but into the idea of the old values of the West. And apparently right now that really is something people tap into. So I think I recall something about Balkan Westerns as well.
But I think
just to round, I think it's true that we need to create our own genres, or to make the mixes that make sense for us.
I think we did in Tallinn last year. There were a Balkan Western. I have some kind of memory. But one thing that we really encourage when we work in our workshop, when we work with group coaching, we will have part of it this afternoon with this 4 project. But that is also to take the opportunity to create a culture, because if you are in a region, we represent an industry that are really competitive. There are small cakes, and a lot of people are fighting for these cakes and want to have their share, and it can create a very ugly culture. And we really try to encourage people to have that view of the world, that the resources are limited. It's a really capitalistic, boring picture of the world, because the truth is that there's a lot of resources. They are maybe not in our industry right now, but we have to remember resources are out there. So you can also decide that you want to have another attitude. And we really encourage collaboration and to see yourself as part of us in a region and in the world and as filmmakers, because if you decide to have this, if you think of a region like Balkan, for example, and you decide we want to have a strong industry, it will be much easier if you decide to be a we and say, okay, what do we have? What can we see? Are there common subjects that are coming, so we can define ourselves as a we, not as my project or my company or my region, to see, okay, what do we have? And I think the Nordic countries are not good at this. We could be much better. And it's really something, you know, you and I talk a lot about it. And we also right now creating a new project called New Nordic Narratives, also to see an overview. What is our region? What do we want to be for the future? And all of us, even if you feeling that you don't have a position, you can be part of that. So I really encourage you, because as I said, what I met at Balkan Film Festival was amazing. And I think it was stories. There are a lot of subjects in your region that I have a relation to. I've heard about it, I've seen it in the news, and a lot of these stories, really, I have a knowledge, but a tiny knowledge. And when you gave me a complex experience and feelings and understanding, it was, oh my God, this is unique selling point. So I think maybe sometimes you need, as with the pitch, it's hard to see your own pitch when you're in an artistic process, but from outside, I see it very, very clearly. So I don't know. I think what do you say, Valeria? Do you agree on me?
I have two things. Like on a very deep personal level, like this positioning we talked about, and to call myself a writer, it's a little bit also fake it till you make it. Like I started just to say I'm a writer. And then also I became part of an email group of other writers, like by accident. And any one person can start a little email group themselves with other people. Most of the people in the group I haven't even met face to face. We're in different parts of the world. And the guy who started the group has sort of brought us in there. What we do is every Friday, we send an email around in the group, just witnessing each other's process as writers. We don't ask anything of each other. We don't actually really use each other that much, but just witnessing each other's and saying, oh, I didn't get to write anything this week. It's frustrating. Have a great weekend. That could be it. Or we would share little screenshots of something we'd written. And it could be a blog post, or it could be from a script, or it could be research, but just we've done that for a couple of years now. And that helped me find my identity as a writer.
But that's fantastic.
So that's one little way of just doing something in a very closed forum, but that can somehow, give you a boost. So that's for anyone to take up.
What do you say that collaborate? Did you have something, Martina?
I just wanted to add something because it was very, very nice of you to say that you really enjoyed and you were inspired by stories come from this region, because I would love to have both of you as evaluators of the media program. Because I've been noticing now for some time that evaluators are putting the stories from this region into the local context, and they have certain expectations from us, and we are put in this pot how we should write the stories, instead of really encouraging them to be supported and to come out. And to really foster and encourage the collaboration. It's normal that we like to collaborate with our neighbors, but we would definitely learn more from each other if we go outside our borders, And I think this is a turning point, especially since today we heard the news that the Creative Europe program will be boosted for 50% more resources than from the previous years. But this is something that we really need to work on at the European level, because this is all about our diversity. Yeah, sorry.
I totally agree. I think just from the experience I have now, of course, working across, with someone who speaks another language, of course, that can be a challenge, especially if, for example, your show depends very much on a regional culture and language, and where little things in the language will mean so much. And for us, Minna has been studying in the UK. I've been working in English for 12 years, so we could write together in English, and it turned out to be an advantage for the broadcaster we work with. But otherwise, of course, now for me, there's a lot of letting go. Like, I had the original idea, and then it became a lot of, it changed a lot, of course. And so now it's Minna's and mine together. But because most of the show is shot in Finnish, so when I watch the dailies, 2/3 I don't understand. So I depend very much on my co-writer for now, through the editing and that process, because I simply can't understand how they've changed the lines, or I can hear the tone. I can see, oh, this is a much shorter scene than it was in the script, or this became a longer scene, or they changed this or that in the scene. That I can understand, but not the language. So for me, I have to practice to let go. Like, there are things I can't control, there are things I can't influence. And of course, we have a dialogue about it, and she tells me, but of course, some things get lost in the language and other things get enriched. And
yeah. I think of another dimension of what you're saying, Martina, because it's also, I'm quite engaged in working with the diversity and all these kind of things. And what that means is that to look at our biases, and we have conscious bias and we have unconscious bias. And I think unconscious bias is actually my story about myself, things I don't know about myself, why I'm doing things. And I think maybe that is because I'm perverted curious. I've always been a very curious person, and I am curious. And I think one thing I'm really curious is, of course, my own prejudice that I'm not aware of, things that are carrying me that I'm not know is carrying me. And I think that goes for all of us. We do have a way to read the world. And talking about the narrative, me and Valeria was at a very interesting workshop at the Danish Film School a couple of years ago, where a very well-established script doctor, white male, found out that the hero's journey as a structure really doesn't make it possible for people that are not white middle-class men to be the main character. That was somehow the whole structure of the hero's journey is built. So it's very difficult to have a woman or a person of color as the main character, because that's, I'm not an expert in story structure, but so I more saw that a guy who was used to work with hero's journey now find out that he has to find other methods and also give that signal to the world. And I think a lot of us read the world through hero's journeys. Either we are aware of it or not. And I think a lot of decision maker, and that also might include those who read for Creative Europe, read the world from hero's journey. And of course, if you're not aware of that, if you don't have the knowledge, because if you want to change that, unconscious bias is what feels natural for you. This is how I do things. But if you want to do things in another way, you have to. I always encourage artists, because I'm a producer as well, I'm not only to go to their uncomfortable zone. As an artist, you should not go for the comfortable. You should dare to make it a bit uncomfortable. When Valeria said we were puking, yeah, you were in your uncomfortable zone. And I'm sorry, that's what it requires if you want to be an artist. It cannot be easy. Sometimes it can, but mostly it's fucking painful. And I think it should.
Yeah. And also because you're told that like you puke it out and you rework it and you feel like, okay, this is the starting point. You're here, and the end is like you can't even see it in the other end. There's so many layers to be put on top yet. And then people read it. And I think that's also a skill in learning how to read material and how to feed back to writers. And that's why I'm so happy that Torino Film Lab still has the story editing program, because a lot of young producers are joining that because they want to be able to have this dialogue with creatives and writers. And you get a lot of puke back at you, like, because they read it as if maybe this would be the final. It's hard to read something and understand that it's just a first rough something. So it's quite a vulnerable process. So your skin hardens a bit along the way. And therefore, it was so nice to be two writers, because we could also help each other and we could boost each other back up again when someone told us, this is shit, you know, this does not work, and this is shit, and I hated that, and why did you do that? And, you know, so it's like, okay. And then you can together, you know, start to, you know, continue writing on it. So I think just to also talk about how we read things and feedback things is something that can come out of these processes the more people are doing it, because it's also not easy to read something that is so far from being finished.
No, and I'm also thinking of the you can't say there is a Balkan story, but I think stories from your region, and if we look at them in a bigger context, I think we should all look for untold stories, and of course, if I can take an example from Greenland. I was coaching last week at Copenhagen Web Fest, and there were two guys from Greenland who had a story that they were pitching. And then I said, because I have my prejudice, but you don't talk much about that you're from Greenland. And then they really looked at me tired. That we are so tired of hearing that question, because we don't want to carry the Greenlandic story that the surrounding world expect us to tell. We have another story, and we want to be free to tell the stories we want to tell. But just because the world have bad consciousness or a strong idea what this place represent, doesn't mean that's the stories that should come out. I think we should fight for let other kind of stories coming out from regions where there are a lot of prejudice about. And maybe, I'm not sure that goes for your region, but I could imagine that you expect, as you know, that's the same thing. I work a lot with gender equality. To have a woman who is a badass, who are not kind, it's a hard character to sell to the world, because we expect women to be caretakers, and or to sell a story with a man that is very sensitive and cry and act
stereotypes.
So we expect stereotypes. We all know that in a good story, when we can surprise with the stereotypes, it will help us to get a dramatic development. So that goes for, it's more interesting to see a man that looks as a macho and then find out that he sings opera or something. You know, it's always interesting to have these contradictions in a character. So I think that goes also for bigger perspective. So that is also a fight. And my imagination now, okay, what can you do to package the concept of your region to get a market? Because I'm sure it's there. It has been, you know, another ground ingredients of a story is conflicts. And I think if you say Balkan conflict, it's something, okay, how can you transform the world's idea of the Balkan conflict to nowadays and own your market? That I can see that Valeria is nodding, but I think this is kind of, help me, Valeria, and say what you think.
Yeah, no, but it's true, but I think that because there are different debates in like out there at the moment, and one is that Netflix is sort of streamlining things, that whether it's a Spanish show or a German show, or they all start looking alike. I disagree, but it's a good point to make, and for argument's sake. Because it is true that, for example, I watched a recent German show that had to do with the same science as our show. So I was like, shit, you know, like, did they come before us, or what did they do? And that was a very Americanized way of telling the story, even if it was German. And I'm not saying that that's not okay, but I think, again, there are platforms enough now, and there are audiences out there, so that you can go from the inside out. Like, what is it that my story should be? What is unique about my story? And how can, so that's where I think that the dance between what it is and how you're selling it. And again, this is the core, this is the story I'm working, this is the way it is, but also how do I make someone else understand that, which is the pitch and the packaging and the selling. So you should never, of course, betray yourself or the core, but at the same time, it's worth to put in the time and get the dialogue and talk to other people, finding how can I make others see the uniqueness of this and how that might reach audiences within my country, within my region, and further into the world. And sometimes maybe you have to compromise a little bit on the genre. I don't feel I've compromised. It's been my starting point was also, this is going to be learning by doing. It's going to be tough. I have to learn a lot of lessons, but it's worth it because it's what I want to do. So I had to swallow a few things when it became much more of an action show than I first had thought. But I can see the benefit.
Please share, because you told me you had one thing that you really fought for. You lost that fight, but you almost won it, I think. Would you like to share? What is it?
No, it's just a silly detail, and it wasn't really that big a thing. It's just that we kind of did not want any weapons or guns in our show, because it was about something else. So even if it became more action, we didn't really want that. We do have a few sort of slightly futuristic stun gun, sound gun things now, and I think a normal gun, but it doesn't get fired. So yeah, I love that.
When you told me that, I said, this fight of yours not having a weapon, it was a statement from your side, and I think it's quite interesting. I think maybe if you wouldn't have had that statement, it would have been more conventional and a lot of weapons. So maybe this resistance of yours also gave an outcome.
It's because it's an easy way to create fear and conflict. So it feels like cheating, so it's like you want to challenge yourself to find the conflicts in the characters, in the things. How do I what happened was that because we did so much research, then some of the dialogues became too scientific. Because you sort of have to get the audience with you. And so that took some extra rounds of rewriting to make it be like normal people speaking, but getting some of the information in there from the research that the audience would need in order to understand. And there the feedback was really good because people were like, I got lost here, or she sounds like she's reading out of a book, or, so that was super helpful in trying to make it more spoken language. And then of course, in the end, the actors come in and also say, this is weird in the mouth, let's rewrite it. And so that's a nice process. But I think the guns was also, and a few other things were also a way of us to just be more creative and not take the easy way out and just, throw a gun in there, because then you have excitement and action. So yeah.
I have another question. How important is to have a budget within the pitch deck or Bible to include it?
You need an idea of a budget, I guess, to just send a signal of where you're sort of seeing your show. In the end, I'm not sure that you need it in there. We only had per episode, an amount that we were striving for per episode. And then people would tell us, oh, you're never going to get that, or, this is too much or too little, or we mainly move in that region. So the only thing to have that number is that it creates a dialogue about what the potential partners, to get them a little bit out of the bush, as we say in Denmark, and just talk a little bit about where their budget might be, or if they can see that potential in the show. So
from the pitch coach perspective, I think I meet a lot of projects where there are writers or directors who pretend that, or that's what to mention budget, and that is something and then they are looking for a producer, and I think it depends on who you are. And then we also come to this direction, because as I said before, the structure of a pitch should at least contain your position, who are you, where are you in the ecosystem, the core of your story. For those who you pitch or present you, they should understand what's your story about. They don't have to understand everything, but they should get the core. They should get the core, so they want to ask you more questions when you have your one-to-one meeting. And then you should tell the direction. What are you looking for? What are you aiming for? If I pitch as a producer, I think it's logic that I have some kind of idea which range of budget I'm thinking of. As a writer, director, no. That's not your job. If you're looking for a producer, you're looking for a producer that because they should help you with the budget. So never as a writer and director, though you can say we will be in on a few locations. So we see the opportunity for this to be low budget because you can think, but you don't have to count. So if you create your project in a way with a few locations, limitations that will make it easy to shoot it, then you can definitely mention something that relates to budget, but don't get into numbers, because I have heard writers say that they will do a 60 million euro thing, and that just sounds stupid. So don't go there. You're not expected to talk about it. As a producer, yes, but then it depends on which stage of development you are. And that is also something I would like to mention. You can pitch from a very tiny idea that it's a half A4 until you're in post-production. But you have to be very honest. In which states of development are you? Because if you make it sound that you have developed much more than you have, so you have a big box with a tiny little P inside, that's not good. But I think the market is always interesting to find something in an early stage of development. So don't be afraid, as Valeria explained before, what she had. And of course you can package it. Even if you just have a half A4, you can also put some pictures, but be honest which stage of development. Don't pretend, as I say, pretend to be what you want to be, but don't pretend to be something you're not.
You're not.
To be very clear where you are, to put a clear contour around yourself. Yeah.
I think the challenge for the writers is to better get an understanding of how is this really 10 episodes, 10 hours, hours will be around 8 times 45 minutes. That's 4 feature films, of average length 4 feature films. So that's a lot of minutes. It's a lot of story. It's a lot of writing. So can your idea, your characters, your dramatic engine, the conflicts that are in there, the thematics, can they fill out this much space, this much time? Is there enough would it work better as a feature film? Would it work better as a miniseries, 3 episodes, 4, 6 episodes? I think that's the challenge, to challenge your material, the story world you have, the different characters. Can they really fill out this many minutes? That's the tricky thing, I think. And that's the writers. It's a different type of budget. It's a writing budget. You could say it's a minute story budget that you're looking at as a writer, and to see how can you.
Talking about money, Valeria, how long time did you have to pay? No, that was a Freudian slip. How long time did you have to write before you could get paid for writing your script? How big investment of yours were there?
Probably 3 years. Not full time, obviously, but in and out. Then we got a little bit of funding here, 2,000 euros to do some writing, or a little bit of funding there, another maybe 2,000 euros for writing.
So to tell us that there is a big investment behind success.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Do you have more questions, Martina?
Yes. What sells better today, story, cast, or experienced director?
I think that's it's different from one country to the other. It's the timing. It's for us, it was the story, because we did not have a star actor attached. We did not have a star director attached at the point that we got a green light. We had a director in mind. We had some actors in mind, but they were not signed on. So for us, it was really the story and the fact that it just matched the agenda of the broadcaster, that this was something they didn't have yet in their portfolio. And because they are so aggressively, producing and testing also their audience, that they took a chance with us. So I think in some contexts, maybe it's great to have a cast already in the development. In some cases, it can be a good director. I think it's hard to say anything like that this is the formula, because I also, from what we hear from the people we coach and the projects that we read for selection, there are so many different ways in. And of course, there's some luck or some timing sometimes, and other times it's just to keep pushing and keep knocking, and hopefully. I think some of the stuff that I read also recently when I did some research on the market was that in a way there are so much drama being produced, so many new names and talents coming out across Europe, across the world, so many more streaming platforms. And at the same time, it's never been more difficult to tell good stories. And it's also this idea of getting what you know, like that people who sit on the money, who are the gatekeepers, they want to have more of the same or what they already know. And at the same time, everyone wants to find the new thing for tomorrow. And you can't really, how do you spot that thing that the people will like tomorrow if you constantly compare with stuff you already know? And so that's a constant balance. And I think also for people who sit on the money and who have to make the decisions, that's a tricky navigation for them. So whatever you can do, where you can put something, where you can feel people are tricking on this is, then push that part of your story, because no matter what happens, from my first vision of what this show should be to the viewer, maybe sometime next year, I have to be very pragmatic. There are so many choices, there are so many complex contexts and people that need to have a say, and reality that kicks in, and COVID, like we had a lot of challenges with locations because of COVID. So how to find a story that is strong enough to first cut through the noise, get someone to make the decision, and then survive that long journey of complex people that all want to have a say, that all say, we need this from the story, we need that. So you need to be able to let go, you need to be able to navigate it, and you need some people that can pick you up when you feel frustrated and down, and some people you can celebrate with when it actually happens. So I think to retain the creative vision is the challenge that we're all dealing with in this jungle of things. So
before I go on with the next question, just to ask you, when it comes to your project and when you pitched the one we are seeing now on the screen, were you asked to mention at least that you are going to approach this and that actor, or in terms of the cast, or at least that you had on your mind?
I think that conversation only came in the last stages of negotiation with the broadcaster that actually greenlit it. So the last, let's say, the last writing, like we wrote the pilot script, and then we had treatments, and then we started to write episode 1, 2, 3 before it was greenlit. And in that process of those final writing rounds before the green light, that's where conversations between the producers and the broadcaster or SVD started to be around who could the main cast be, and have ideas about that. So, but again, in other shows, I know that it's different, and I would love to have, I have a comedy I'm developing, and I would love to have the main characters, the two main characters involved already in the writing, if at all possible, because I think for this project, it would be very important to actually have some actors on board. Maybe they will not end up being the final cast, but to have that perspective in the writing. Helen?
And I would like to add, thinking of when you pitch your product, when we talk about position, you ask a story director or cast, depending on where you are you very unknown in the ecosystem? Of course, it's good to have a well-known name in the cast, or a director attached. That is, so it's always the balance in the product, because as Valeria said, or was it you, Martina? I don't remember. No, but the challenge is to make the innovation, and innovation means things that will be successful tomorrow that we don't know today that they will be successful. That's innovation, and it's very interesting. I love to study venture capitalists. How do they think? They are not working in our industry. When they invest in innovation, if they invest in 10 projects, they expect one to be successful. And I think we have unrealistic expectation in our industry, because when we invest in 10 projects, we expect 10 projects to be, and I think that's stupid, because if we would dare to take bigger risks and say, okay, I get a good feeling of this, I dare to follow this feeling and of course it's a lot of money. So what I'm saying is challenging, but if we really want to get new things out there, I think we also need to take bigger risks. And I think,
I agree.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if it's like, it's not a good thing for the writer that to be paid that little that you can't really make a living at all from your project. You're just burning on the fuel of that it might happen, and that's your driving force. So it would be nice to have a little more money in the development from a writer's perspective. But at the same time, it's very little money. So up until the green light, in our case, it was actually very little money that was at risk. So again, even if we had not got the green light, that whole process would have already put me at a better place for, another project, or to keep pushing this one in a better way. So no matter if it's not produced in the end, I think everybody's skill set, and we all learn something from that process.
But what you say, actually, because I'm thinking of, we all know that the Danish TV series was really early to be successful. You had a lot of successful TV series coming out of Denmark, and that was the result of a structure, of a strategy, and that strategy was to invest in scriptwriters during the whole process. So
that was the national broadcaster strategy.
National broadcaster decided to invest in an amount of scriptwriters to make their lives easier, to give them the space so they didn't have to work 3 years. So if you belong to a region and you would like to create success in that region, logic tells us that invest in scriptwriters, give them space and money, and you will for sure have an outcome. And then of course there are other ingredients in that success, but I think there is really something, because that's the ground material. You have to remember, what's the ground material of our industry, and that is stories.
Just to put on that, there is the funding opportunity in Switzerland just for Swiss producers called Focal, but the idea can be copied, which supports that different production companies go together, like 2 or 3 production companies go together and apply money for a project. Like, for example, we want to get better at developing comedy projects, or it could be we want to get better at developing TV series projects, and then they create a process where they bring in experts, they have writers, and and then Focal supports that. I think that's a brilliant way of supporting the local industry. And I think also we have a story of a Danish production company who got money from the Danish Film Institute to create a writer's room, just for these writers to have a group where they could share and use each other, and to start developing projects, which then of course the production company had the first right to choose from that, and say we want to take this or that. But that was like a development thing where a production company simply said, we want to attach 4, 5, 6 writers, we apply the Danish Film Institute and make a project out of it. And then that's a way of generating experience and networking, and for them to maybe also get some projects out of it. So I don't know if the local funders give opportunity for this kind of thing, but I think that's where to think a little bit outside and find different funding models where you could support talent in that way, I think is very interesting.
We like a strategy when it comes to the region. So in terms of Croatia, the Croatian Audiovisual Film Center, they support TV development, but the national broadcaster is just waking up, and there have been always some turbulences, and this is rather problematic. I do have a couple of questions.
Yes, go on. Sorry.
So, from TV series perspective and audiences' ability to concentrate due to short video forms of YouTube and such, in today's industry, is it better to write episodes up to 25 to 30 minutes or up to 50 minutes? Maybe I can repeat it if you...
I think we got it, didn't we?
Did you get it, or shall I repeat it? So from TV series perspective and audience's ability to concentrate in today's industry, is it better to write episodes up to 25 to 30 minutes or up to 50 minutes?
Okay. I think the comedy format, like for example, just the Swedish series Love and Anarchy, they are around 25, 30 minutes, I think, the episodes.
28,
around.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. And there was a great comic French show as well, Call My Agent, which I think was also around that length. So that can work well there. I think also I want to throw in just the opportunity to maybe make web series. I don't know, again, what the local funding or regional funding is for these things, but sometimes maybe that can be a more realistic way of getting something done, to make something shorter for the web and with a low budget, just to get something out there. I think, again, the core question is, does your story, does your material, can we endure it? You know, is there enough juice in it that it can carry 40, 45, 50 minutes per episode? Because it's like, I think there are some series I've seen recently where you go like 2 episodes, like they were 10, 12 episodes, like they could have told the story in 9 episodes. I feel like tired as an audience. Why do they have to drag it out artificially? It almost feels like it's dragging out artificially just so that we can maybe get a second season. I think there's more of an understanding also now that an audience might like it to have a show that is just 1 season. Like, there's so much to choose from. If every show has to be more seasons, are we going to lose the audience there? Can it even carry a second season? So maybe put more into the first one and make that really rich, and you know, and then you have to test it once you start writing, like just going from treatments to scripts. Like when we copy pasted the scenes we had in the treatments, we had like 15-page scripts and we needed to get up to 45. So there was a lot of extra filling in that was not even in the treatment. So you just start to physically sitting there writing, realize how much needs to happen, how much more story, how much more dialogue for it to, you know, not become boring at the length of 45 or 50 minutes. So I think the answer is to test your material, write the pilot, see, you know, how long does it get naturally with the storyline. Then you can very practically see, I need another whole other B or C storyline, or I need some more side characters, or I just need to go more into depth if it's just a story of 2 people, which you can have in a show, of course. How to fill it out, and can it carry, and to keep the audience in mind. You know, it's so easy to click and say, I'm bored by this. So what makes it live? There was this new concept called Criminal on Netflix. I think it's 3 episodes from a lot of different countries. So that's very concept driven. They use the same studio, the same look, and it's an interrogation between police and some person being interrogated. Super concept. And then you can really feel like the Spanish and the French and the German and the British, the cultural differences, the way the actors are, the tone, the types of stories they choose. It's a great sort of thing to explore because, yeah, you need, again, it's 2 people talking in a room and some people talking in another room. And maybe they go into the hallway. That's it. You never go outside. How can you make that interesting for 45 minutes? So that's really, I think we need to be more self-critical and ask ourselves, can this be interesting for this long? And who would find it interesting? How, you know, think of the audience when you answer the question of 25 minutes or 50 minutes.
But that's a very relevant thing, what you said, think of the audience. It's also that use audience during your development process. Try your things out on an audience early in the process.
Another one, if decided to pitch to international level, but story is local, is it better to write in English or local language? So one of the example is Chernobyl series.
Chernobyl was amazing. I know that some of the other Finnish shows from the same SVOD, they are written in Finnish, and then at certain points when the broadcaster needs to read and feedback, they are translated into English. So of course you need to factor in the time there. It was natural, like I said, for us it was natural to write it in English, and part of the dialogue is English because some of the characters are from different countries. So when the Swedish and the Danish characters speak together, they speak in English. I think it's a tricky question because if you don't feel comfortable writing in English and you have, like I said, some really local or regional, national things in there, it's hard to maybe express them in English. And things changed as well. Like we had a professional translator translate all 8 scripts from English to Finnish. And then the Finnish writer would start rewriting the Finnish dialogues to sound more spoken. And then I would adapt the English dialogue. So I was working in the English and she was working in the Finnish document, and we were constantly changing the dialogues together. And certain things in Finland, you just can't say the way you say them in English. So the lines would become different. So there's a lot of tweaking and a lot of like the ear for things, like her ear and my ear in the English, and then trying to keep the lines similar. So I think depending on if it's a story that takes place in different countries organically, like we try to keep the language organic. I think in Chernobyl, it's relative. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It works there, so it's hard to say, but I would always say start with what is at the heart of the story. And if you as a writer feel that you can best express it in your own language, then do that. And then factor in the budget, the time and the money for the translations for the other partners.
Okay.
Because I think you can lose things if you're not really used to writing in English, then it's just going to be hard to write the dialogues, and then you will maybe lose out on details and tone and things like this. Yes, Nivena.
Yes, I just wanted to add regarding the Chernobyl, because there was a podcast with creators and they said that this was a huge question regarding the language, but they were thinking about the audience and they decided to go with English because they didn't want to recreate something which cannot sound naturally. So their decision was to go with English simply, and they knew they were ready for some critique, but this was the conscious decision they made in order to somehow put the focus of the audiences on the very story and not on the sound of this story. So just that.
Thank you. I have some more questions.
Yeah.
Where do we start if we have a story? Where to pitch?
Is it the question asked from? Do you know from which region? Is from your region? Is it Croatian or Serbian or?
I believe that it's Croatian. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I should start to ask, I think you should start to pitch in your local area, but then also have your eyes on pitch forum around, and there are a lot of pitch forum. We will have next week. I don't know, but it's not open for Balkan, is it? The power workshop we do, Valeria.
No, it's that's Nordic. Could you take away the shared screen now?
Oh,
maybe?
sorry. Yeah.
No, that's Nordic and Baltic scriptwriters, and then sometimes there's like a guest country or that we can have a writer from another region. But the concept of power is easily copied. I mean, it's an intensive short pitch story development workshop where we try to select mainly writers, because writers are not as often participating in festivals where they could network and things like that. Of course, it's going to be online this year, But
right, just looking
Helen
for
and I are coaching them, but also everybody reads each other's projects. So everybody, and I really feel that what happens, we're a small group of 6 projects, 6 people, and the way they become so generous with each other and each other's materials. So sometimes they just say the most brilliant things to each other, and Helen and I are just sort of moderating it almost. But of course, we also we coach them, and it's also for them to start networking with each other, and nice connections have come out of that workshop. So it's basically 2.5 days or 2 days. It could even be of pitch coaching, and because pitching is such a good development tool, because you're forced to boil things down to the essence. So people usually feel that they are developing their story through the process we have in any way, and then they pitch it to an audience at the end.
So the truth is that we don't have a very good overview of pitching possibilities in your region. I don't know if the Balkan film market still do the pitching forum. But I think if you don't have pitching forum, what Valeria says, maybe you should create pitching forum, because it is really good. And I would like to share a moment from one of the workshops we had, the moment when me and Valeria, when the group, they got the principles for our method, and where we decided to just take some steps back, and what Valeria described, when they started to coach each other. And that was a hallelujah moment, because that is also when you decide that I can afford to be generous to someone instead of competing with them, that because we can really give each other energy to develop together, and that is also a culture to create. So yeah,
I mean, the workshop we are doing now, I think it's a good starting point. And maybe by participating now in the masterclass, people will be encouraged to apply more and to participate for the next year. But this is the thing that I noticed, that it's missing in the region, and it's so difficult to be selected at high-level pitching forums. So for this reason, we decided to introduce such training, and to see with your tips and tricks what's the best for the stories. I'm now referring to the individual consultations, and encouraging people in participating in the masterclass to apply for the next year when we do something.
And I would like to encourage, because when you do this time, it's focusing on TV series, but there is no problem to mix feature films with TV series, documentaries, or even shorts, or directors, producers, because I think that's, I would say it could be interesting, because in the end of the day, it's the same principle. And it's also the opportunities we have with now. We can't meet in person, and that's a limit, but it also gives us the opportunity to, because I think the pitching is one thing, but then it's also in power to design the one-to-one meetings, to also tailor-made the right connections for a certain project. And that is also interesting, because sometimes maybe a discussion with someone that you never have thought of yourself, that a forum could put you in touch with, could open up some new possibilities. And I think that's what the way the market looks like right now, regarding financing, production, and especially distribution, it's really important. I would not say think out of the box. I would say to see a bigger landscape than we used to do. To also let the landscape be bigger, and I think.
I just wanted to add, I think from the audience, there was this question about also the packaging, about cast and other things. And I think in one way, this, to just test the idea fast, like I am sure that the first couple of times that we pitched the idea, or I pitched the idea, it wasn't a very great way, like, oh, I could definitely have done that better, or, but then you still get some feedback, and so you do it better next time. You get some feedback, you get it better next time. You meet someone who says, and because you need to get to know, so of course it's important to go to these forums, and right now when we're online, I think a positive thing from that is that maybe people are more open to taking a video meeting with someone they have not met at a market before. Like there's maybe mentally more of an openness to take a cold call. Like maybe if I wanted to collaborate with Iceland, maybe I could find an Icelandic producer that interests me, and maybe they would be open to take, a 20-minute video meeting with me, even if we haven't exchanged cards at a forum. That maybe that's a consequence out of having been online, that we're more mentally open to that, breaking that barrier. Because otherwise, I think, yes, of course, it's ideal if you can have all the elements in your package, but I don't think you should wait until that moment. I think you need to test your idea earlier and get the feedback also. Is it the right timing for this? Is there something in the spirit of the right now? Like, right now one group of people are saying, oh, the audience do want to hear stories about COVID. I'm not that audience. I don't really want to watch stories about COVID right now, what other people are experiencing. I'm having my own film in here, but there is an audience for that. So that's a part of the market. Then other people are saying, well, we want more comedy. We want more feel good. We don't want depressing stories, because people are depressed when they walk out of their door, or that they can't even come out of their main door. They are stuck at home. But then it takes 1, 2, 3, 4 years to produce something. So how can we guess what an audience in 2, 3, 4 years want to see? It's the same. Writers are discussing, producers and funders are discussing. In the things we're writing now, which are not yet financed, do people need to wear masks? Do people need to keep distance? Can we have people hugging or kissing in films that we're writing now? Who can know what we want to see in 2 or 3 years? It's really tricky to speculate, and I still think we will get some of that, but we will also get something else. So I think test your ideas early and see, is there feedback? Do people react to it if you can? And then keep improving your package as you move along. And at some point, maybe you will have that great package where you have a bit of funding, some cast, some names, some this, some that, some other selling points.
We have more questions.
Yes. Does the teen series have to be developed on other platforms as well? For teens, teenagers.
I think what is interesting in that audience aspect is that there is more awareness from media about developing audiences, and there's a Danish company who just got media funding for an AI that sort of uses audiences during the script development to test themes and characters and ideas, and it's in the development stage. And they are working with projects from different European countries. And so I think that's, and they're very much looking into young audiences. So I think, look at, we need more statistics. So I think it's so important. EAVE just have this think tank project going on in EAVE. And they are also proposing, one of their 5 initiatives for the future is to get much more statistic material that we can share generously with each other in Europe, to actually know which platforms are the young audiences on, which films do they go to the cinema, and we need more data basically to answer some of that question. Otherwise, I think again, the famous Scam from Norway, but there are other also from the Middle East, and there are other examples of web series.
But that's also part of packaging, isn't it?
Yeah.
PR packaging, because that's, I would say, if you create, and I expect that the ground idea in this question was that you have a online platform, and then should you add on? And I think, definitely if it's the whole story, but what they did in Scam, to have some kind of interaction with the platform that is on top right now, which can be changing over time. It was Instagram when Scam came. I don't know if they were on Snapchat as well.
Facebook they did a lot, but now it's like
Instagram. But today it would probably be different. TikTok would definitely be there. Maybe Snapchat. I'm not good enough at it, but I think that goes not only for teens. If you want to audience engagement, and we only have 4 minutes left. Valeria written a book about it, but audience engagement, I think that means to communicate with the audience on as many levels as possible. Old school PR, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, word by mouth. It's really to communicate, over communicate. You can never communicate too much when you want to reach out with your. If you just think, now I've made my film, I'm ready, forget about it. That doesn't exist anymore. You have to really work to get your stuff out there. Do you agree, Valeria?
Yeah. I mean, the problem, as with everything else, is money and time. So it's like the resources, but definitely, I think if you again can find ways of, just in a small group of people, like that you want to do it for teenagers, well, find some teenagers that you can work with and have them do readings for them, and invite them at certain stages to test where your story is going, to test your character, how are they responding.
Yeah. And audience engagement, that doesn't start when you're ready. Audience engagement starts when you start the process. So when we were talking about, as Valeria said, pitch in an early stage could also be audience engagement. It could be done in a way so you start to establish your story and your project among the audience. And yeah, we only have 3 minutes left, so we'll not come up with any super cool ideas, but just to have the intention. And that is also, of course, challenging. But do I dare to speak about my project? Will someone steal it? And I would say that is something where you have to decide. I believe in speak as much as possible about it to make it happen. Some people believe in keep it as close to the body as possible to make it happen. What's the truth is, I don't know. I don't know what you say, Valeria. What's your suggestions?
No, absolutely. Of course, at the point where you get the green light, you're not allowed to talk about it at all anymore. So I hope that me sharing something. I mean, we had the press. It only was sent out, the press release, that we're doing it like a month ago. So it's out there now. So that's why I dare speak a little more about it. But up until then, I was not allowed to talk about it. So.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, no, definitely. I also, I mean, I registered my project with the WGA in the Writers Guild in America, because they have a nice online thing where you can upload your synopsis or your treatment, and you sort of get a number, and it costs you $20. So, and you can be anywhere in the world and use there. So if you have a local way of securing your copyright, if you're afraid, then at least you have some kind of proof that at this stage, the way the story was then, and every time there's a major change in the story, you kind of need to do it again. So it can be a lot of $20, but
I think
that's the way of securing something.
No, we can stay a bit longer just so that we answer, I think, the last question, if it's possible, regarding the languages. How are the shows in Slavic languages received internationally, or even better, how well are they accepted by international ears? Do you have any idea?
I can't speak specifically to Slavic shows. I can only speak to, again, I've read a lot of articles and been at other panels, and in general, there is a much bigger acceptance from audiences for subtitles. So I think, and then, for example, of course, Netflix is a different story also, because financing-wise, Netflix is not always a great deal, because they might finance you within regional budgets, which are rather low, but then they want the whole world. So, but that's a whole other discussion. But they do, of course, the dubbing sometimes. So you can watch a Spanish show, but with the English dubbing, for example. But generally, I think that the trend seems to have found a level, and I think it will just continue, where audiences are accepting in more and more countries subtitles, and that speaks for, keeping it in your own language. But how they are received, I don't know. I haven't seen, like, I noticed there are several Polish shows that have been out there, and I think just a greater variety of languages. So unfortunately, I haven't seen any Slavic shows, so that's my bad. Okay, if you can recommend some, please recommend shows.
Please recommend shows
for us. Okay. Go and have a look in Facebook. Yeah.
We have huge network, so throw it on us, and we will definitely help to share it. That is how it works. Yeah.
We will start from the Croatian show, but also Nevena can back me up with the Serbian ones. But the first to be sold to Netflix was The Paper, by our famous director Dalibor Matanic, who won also one of the awards in Cannes Film Festival in 2015, and then also was ordered by HBO Success. Which was you needed to apply to the call, and then the story was chosen, but it was done with the Croatian writer, director, and the film crew. So this is a starting point, but maybe we will also receive some more comments on the Facebook page as well as a broader. But the shows are coming out. Just it's always so difficult to balance the financing point and to be present at different pitching forums and to be supported by the media program concretely. So, but when there is a will, there is a way, as I like to say.
Yeah.
Would you like to have some concluding remarks or so? I mean, it went so fast, I must admit. Yeah, it's just the starting point, what I would like to collaborate along with Nevena and Zagreb Film Festival with you. But
yeah, but I don't know. I like to encourage people. No, I think these thoughts that came up, and also based on the question you asked and the complexity of the discussion, I think I'm thinking of your region, really to work to brand the region, and if you have the goodwill to create structures, because one thing we learned from being coaches is that there are great artists out there. What's lacking is supporting structures that have a bigger view. There are supporting structures focusing on individual produce on a certain level, but the bigger supporting ecosystem that wants something for a region, that wants something that to support talent to grow, this more holistic perspective of the success for the future, because we all want success. That's natural. We work in shitty circumstances sometimes, right 3 years without getting paid because we believe in something, and we also expect this what we believe, that it should lead us somewhere. But I think to make that more collective, and also sitting on the shares where you do, to create supporting structures, that's I think what I would like to give away as the last word. I don't know.
I mean, if I have a final statement, I would say I think you said that it's hard for Balkan projects to get selected at, like, for example, I don't know, Ceremania or Berlinale series, or some of these events that have, cropped up, and there are more and more coming, also more with a regional focus. And I think the reason we were not selected was also that we did not have a position. Even if the producer had a track record, it's within feature film, it's not within TV series. And we always have to keep in mind that these events need to fund and market themselves. So they also are egotistical in the way that they select. So, like, for example, I have an example where in Denmark, there was the Danish Film School, and it's super exclusive. Like, one student from the Danish Film School is the same cost as like an F-16 pilot. So it's like a really exclusive to get selected, like 6 people every second year. So there were a number of filmmakers back in 1999, actually, who said, fuck the Danish Film School. We don't want to apply anymore. We're tired of being rejected. We're making our own film school. It became something called Super 16. It became an organization where they would educate themselves. They would call photographers, call producers, have them come in and teach them. They would self-finance and organize to produce in teams of 2, 1 short film every year. Since then, it still exists. And now they included scriptwriters, because every group who is the group running the show decide if they want to change Super 16 content into something else or format. So I think this idea of saying, if the others don't want us, let's find something else where we can create our own pitch forum or our own platform that validates us and say, maybe you don't choose us in Paris, but we have something to bring. We're going to make our own showcase somehow. And just try and challenge, don't put your power in their hands. Take the power back and say, I know it sounds easy to just say it, but there is something in the mentality again. Don't let the others judge your quality. Take it back home and say, we know we have a quality. Let's find a way to put it out there. So that would be my final word.
That's a good last word, I think.
Yes, I agree. Here is Neven as well.
No, I don't want to say anything. I just...
Okay. So, dear ladies, I think it's the perfect timing to conclude the masterclass. I would like to thank you for being able to participate and encourage all those who were listening to us, and that you were willing to share your tips and tricks and knowledge. And I'm looking forward, I can speak on behalf of Neven as well, to collaborate with you in future. So big thank you.
Thank you very much.
So,
thank you.
Thank you very much. And those who will be in our workshop, see you in an hour.
Yes. Don't forget to come. Yeah.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Bye. Ciao.